Well, it ended an 8-year drought and served as redemption for U.S. captain Davis Love III and the American team as they beat the Europeans at Hazeltine to win the Ryder Cup for the first time since 2008. The U.S. team celebrating that evening at the clubhouse at Hazeltine in front of that raucous American gallery. The Europeans, though, hoping to erase those memories in France in 2018. We've got some news regarding their choice for captain as Golf Central starts right now.
Golf Central. Brought to you by Titleist.
As just mentioned, big news today for one of golf's most exciting events. Denmark's Thomas Bjorn will be named Europe's captain for the 2018 Ryder Cup. As first reported by Golf Digest, Bjorn served as a vice captain in the biennial matches 4 times and participated as a player on 3 occasions. Let's take a look at his career record. In these matches, in 1997, he became the first Dane to play in the Ryder Cup. His record in the 3 appearances as a player, 3-4-2, and his captaincy, or vice captaincy rather, started in 04 and went all the way up to the latest in 2016. With that, we welcome you in. Great to have you with us tonight on Golf Central. Obviously, a lot to discuss in terms of this upcoming announcement. We begin that conversation with George Savarickas and Tim Rosafort.
All right, thank you, Lisa, with Tim, and you were able to confirm the news that Thomas Bjorn will be the Ryder Cup captain for Team Europe in 2018. Your reaction to the news?
Well, no surprise, George. Bjorn's been in a pipeline. He's a member of the European Tour's tournament committee. He's been a vice captain 4 times, so he has that type of experience. He's 45 years old. And also, if you look at the geography of this, obviously, with the Ryder Cup being in France, he's from Denmark. After 2 Irish captains, I think it was important for the European Tour to have someone from the continent itself, known to be brutally honest as a player, either the Mad Dane or the Great Dane, depending upon what type of mood you catch him in. I got to tell you something. One of the toughest interviews I've done in my career, George, was after he left it in that bunker at St. George's in 03 and had to follow him to the locker room. But true to him, he was brutally honest then, and he remains brutally honest now, and I expect the same as a Ryder Cup captain.
What do you think his temperament will be like as a Ryder Cup captain, and how is he perceived by his peers on the European Tour?
Very highly respected, and I think, George, he'll be more like he is as an administrator, as an official on the European Tour than he was as a player on the European Tour.
All right, definitely some stuff to look for. Let's go over to Lisa.
George, thank you very much. We are pleased to welcome in Ken Schofield, former executive director of the European Tour. Ken, first of all, thanks a lot for the time. Your reaction to Europe naming Thomas Bjorn as its 2018 captain?
Well, no surprise, Lisa. I think from the moment immediately after Hazeltine that both Lee Westwood and Padraig Harrington made it very clear they still saw themselves as players, firstly. That really cleared the way, I think, for Thomas. And as we know, he's had a very strong involvement for the better part of 20 years in the Ryder Cup, firstly as a player on 3 occasions, and as far back as Oakland Hills in 2004 as a vice-captain to Bernard Langer. And, of course, he's been involved one way or another in each of the last 4 matches going back to Celtic Manor. So I think the field is clear for Thomas, and it'll be interesting to see how he sets up, given that Europe have got to come out strong in Paris.
Well, on that note, Ken, how much pressure will Bjorn be under to regain the cup for Europe?
Well, I think he'll be under a lot of pressure, Lisa. Europe have had, as we know, until Hazeltine, had a very good run in multiple Ryder Cups. Additionally, no home Ryder Cup has been lost in Europe since 1993, when Tom Watson's side won at the Belfry. That, I think, alone will ratchet up the expectation for Europe to regain the trophy that was lost in a pretty convincing defeat at Hazeltine. The other benefits I think Thomas will have, apart from home field, will be that Darren had to field 6 newcomers to the Ryder Cup. Some of those will be back, and of course there'll be more experience. So there'll be a lot of expectation that Thomas will have to get a winning side.
Just one more for you, Ken. What do you think gave Bjorn the lead on this versus some other candidates to get this job in 2018?
Well, since 2007, Lisa, he's been the chairman of the Tournament Players Committee, which is the players' forum. He knows the guys right through the ranks and looks after them. he's been very assiduous in these duties. So that, apart from his own playing record, which is pretty stellar, that I know would gain the respect of virtually all of the players from top to bottom. And I think that would be uppermost in the mind of the selection panel, which my understanding would be that the most three recent Ryder Cup captains from Olathibal, from McGinley, from Darren Clark, and I understand the Players Committee representative was likely to be Henrik Stenson, who, of course, knows Thomas throughout both their wonderful careers.
Very well said, Ken. Always appreciate the time. We hope to see you soon.
Thank you, Lisa.
We know all about Bjorn's career record, but let's take a look back at the record. The last 5 times the Ryder Cup has been played. You can see those 3 European victories and then bookended by the United States victories in 2008 and 2016 as we welcome in Golf Channel analyst Tripp Eisenhower to the show. Tripp, Ken had a lot of interesting things to say there. I guess your reaction when you heard the news about Thomas Bjorn over maybe some possible other candidates, Padraig Harrington, Lee Westwood.
Well, I thought Padraig Harrington, it was probably a coin flip between Bjorn and Harrington, and both players would be hugely successful, I think, as captains. And Thomas Bjorn, great rapport with the players all the way down from top to bottom. He's got a ton of experience. This is the playbook that the European side has been using. 4 times a vice captain, and then you step right up after that, and you go into the captaincy. So I definitely think that this is just part of the playbook, and I think it probably has something to do with Padraig Harrington and him wanting to still be competitive, because I mean he is competitive. He won just recently, so you know, Padraig Harrington is that guy. He will be a captain sometime, but he's probably going to be another vice captain in France, and maybe he gets the nod in 2020. But again, Bjorn, I think, was a wonderful pick. He was on the list to be a captain at some point. And again, the other thing against Padraig might be the fact that this would be 3 straight Irish captains if they chose Harrington. But both great guys, great captains, and Europeans, they've got it figured out as far as the ups and downs and the ins and outs of getting a team ready to play golf. It's been working for them. Now with the U.S. Task Force, maybe there's a little bit more competition in getting all the small things buttoned up.
I asked Ken this just a moment ago, and we're going to have Frank Nobilo on the show in a little bit, and I'm going to ask him the same question, so I'm going to put it to you. Is there a lot of pressure on Thomas Bjorn?
Well, there's always pressure on captains, and to follow up a U.S. win with a European win would do a lot, and there is going to be immense pressure. But ultimately, the pressure comes down to the players, because they're the ones that are going to have to perform. And they did great this last Ryder Cup, but even though the margin was a lot more than it was neck and neck there for a lot of that Ryder Cup.
All right, definitely a lot to discuss when it comes to the Ryder Cup. This conversation will continue, and it continues right now. We'll go back over to George.
Well, Lisa, Thomas Bjorn made his Ryder Cup debut for the European team back in 1997, same year as Tiger Woods at Valderrama. Bjorn's European squad got the best of them then. Both served as vice captains of the Hazeltine this fall, where Tiger Woods and the Americans were able to prevail. Tiger in the field this week in the Bahamas, and his shot of the week, showing a little finesse with the short game. This from Saturday's 3rd round, his second to the par 3 fifth from out of the bunker. Doesn't get much better than that. One of the 24 birdies he took together. Here's Tiger in his own words.
To get back out of here at this level has been a challenge. A lot of hard work, and an extreme, inordinate amount of patience, which is, as you all know, not exactly one of my hallmarks. I'm gonna give it my best. I'm gonna be focused. I'm gonna try and do what I can do and put the ball in the correct spots, give myself looks, and try and bury these putts, and post scores, and get myself in that mix come Sunday afternoon.
You know, I just made some really, if you look at it, some really silly mistakes. Mistakes I don't normally make, but I hadn't played in a while, and you know, unfortunately I made those mistakes. I can clean that up. It felt good to have that adrenaline, you know, surging through the system again. It's been a long time, and to get up there in that first hole and feel it again, and then dumb it down to be able to control it and get into my field where I play my best at. That was nice, because I got it pretty quick. It was nice to get that first round out of the way and get back into it again. And today, I think that also making some of those putts and those 2 birdies at 9 and 11 changes the entire energy of the round. And instead of being, angry at myself and ticked and trying to fight back, now I'm building momentum, and the energy just fed itself. If you think about it, I've gotten off to some really good starts the first 3 days, and generally when I come back from layoffs, that's what is the most concerned part of the game. I'm just not quite there, but it's coming. That's the great thing, is that I'm building, and the fact that each day I've gotten a little bit stronger. I'm not as tired, and I think I'm getting used to playing out here. The mental preparation for a round, I'm starting to get into the flow of warming up, seeing shots, feeling shots, hitting shots, getting the feel for the wind. I know exactly what it's going to do at that trajectory. All the things that you don't really do at home. I felt like I made some birdies this week, and I felt like I did really well in that regard, but I also made some just really silly mistakes. This stretch where I've been out for almost a year and a half has been rough, and the last few years have been rough. I've had some very, very difficult times, and had some great friends that have helped me over the times to get me to this point, and I'm just so thankful to be back there playing again.
So kind of a mixed bag for Tiger Woods in his first start in 2016. You see the 24 birdies that I had referenced. That was best among all players in the field at the Hero World Challenge, but the 6 double bogeys or worse, 17th out of the 18 players to tee it up in the Bahamas. So kind of a mixed bag to say the least with Tripp and Tim. Guys, do you focus more on the good with the 24 birdies, or is it concerning he only beats 2 guys and you're seeing kind of a wayward miss off the tee?
Well, I said before, what I wanted to see out of Tiger Woods was him just post a score for 72 holes. Sign a scorecard. That's so much different than playing at your home. And even Tiger said it was unusual to not be playing in a cart. He's been so used to playing in a cart. So I'm going to go with the positives on it. And if we go through his bag, we'll start with the putting. Back to that Scotty Cameron that he won 13 of his 14 majors. That putter just looks great in his hands. He looks like he's going to make putts with it. I love the putting stroke. Always have with Tiger Woods. No question. He's one of the best pressure putters in the history of the game. We look at the short game. The one issue I have with the short game is there is still a little bit of an issue off some tight lies, but overall, I still think it's way better with the short game. As far as the golf swing goes, it looked really solid to me as far as the synchronization of it. There was a left miss. Now, this is the club getting behind him, underneath, but the big difference for me was the rhythm. It did not look forced. It looked in flow, and the club is more in front of him than it was a couple of years ago. Now, his misses were both ways at times, primarily to the left, again, as I said, because the club was going underneath. They're not as big as they were a couple of years ago. You got to remember on the 18th hole at Muirfield, he hit it out of bounds once, and his provisional was going out of bounds and hit a tree and kicked back in. And those are wild misses to the right, and that's because that club was late. It's not near as late. This is fixable. I think Tiger Woods can definitely fix the long game and fix the swing, because what Louis Oosthuizen did a couple of years ago when the club would get underneath, he would take one of those alignment rods and put it on an angle coming into the ball, so he had to come over that angle a little bit and get above the plane. Tiger Woods can easily do that. As I said, this is fixable. But here, again, a day where the first round where he had a lot of things going, and then he steps up on the 18th hole, hits the driver, and it goes left. Again, not a wild miss to the left like we've seen Tiger Woods over the years. So overall, I think it's wonderful that he's got everything going in the right direction. In particular, the golf swing, I give it an A-. It's still got some work to do, but it is fixable stuff, George, and that's great news for Tiger Woods and the game.
And Professor Eisenhower, usually a pretty tough grader. So
yeah.
So an A- out of the gate's not too bad. Big picture, what's your takeaway, Rosie?
I think you got to consider it a success. I mean, you look at it the way Joe LaCava did his caddy. He said he finished upright, which is good. He wasn't taken off in a cart. You think about the way, as Joe said, he was playing shots that he had pictured in his mind, so it didn't look as mechanical and maybe as violent as some of the swings that we had seen in the past. I mean, let's give him a little bit of a break. It was 466 days or whatever since his last tournament, and you're going to make some bogeys in that situation. You are going to have to, shake off some rust. But over the course of what he was there to accomplish, not get hurt, not embarrass himself with a short game, which was tough down there because of the grass and the way some of those greens were stuck up in the air. Hit some good shots, hit a couple that were a little dicey, but again, that long off based on where we saw him when he last exited the stage, I thought it was a lot for him to build on going into the 2017 season.
And given where he was last year, having that press conference with the uncertainty of his future, to at least see a second round 65 gives you a little tease going forward.
And given where he was just basically a month ago, after the Safeway, and in that time he was working on his game at Medalist, I mean, he's come a long way based on what I've heard from the early days of those sessions to what we saw from down in the Bahamas over the weekend.
Well, guys, we are just getting the ball rolling tonight here. Later in the show, we're going to have much more on Tiger Woods' 2016 debut at the Hero World Challenge. John Feinstein will break down what he saw. Plus, which major will Hideki Matsuyama win first? Our expert tells you why one of golf's oldest could be crowning a young champion soon. This is Golf Central.
Golf Central is brought to you by Titleist Pro V1 and Pro V1X, the #1 gift in golf. Arcos, advanced GPS and distance tracking for every shot.